Good evening, everyone. This is Rodney with the Triton Wave Market Outlook for Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. All right, let's take a look and see what happened with the S&Ps for the last few days. We had this giant move up on the fiscal on avoiding the fiscal cliff. It's basically gone sideways to down since then. And when I compress the screen, you'll see that the volume has decreased as it's done all this. So it's basically, it looks like a topping action. It's met these three tops going back from September, October, and then the middle of October. And it's really done nothing. There's nothing more. They're not going to put any more money into the economy. Maybe earnings will drive it a little bit higher. Alcoa came out with earnings today. More revenues, but the earnings per share were expected. They were the numbers that were expected. So more revenue, but not more earnings per share. So this is just kind of like hanging up there, waiting for something to happen, waiting for better news to pump this up higher. If we close this in, we can see that the waves are just barely the first and two trading. The first T1 and T2 are just T1 is above zero, T2 is just barely above zero, and the other three are just like hovering. So even though it looks good, if we take a look at the let's move this over and change it to a 21, and then change this to a 4181, and you'll see what I mean. On more of a trading basis, you know, like a 3 or 4 day swing trade, T1 already went below zero at 1458. And then completely below zero a half a day later. And then yesterday's trade, T2 went below zero, and today T3 went below zero. So it's slowly edging over. I like to watch the roll of the waves, but more importantly, I know I showed you this 2 days ago, and I can still on the 4181 fit this all in one screen. Usually there's like one or two bars, maybe 3 bars that you can fit across a screen this wide. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading days, and this is the reason that on Monday when they had the fiscal cliff decision, it was going down, and then it swung back up rather viciously in a short squeeze. But notice the distance between these days. These are all 830 marks. This is smaller, 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 and this one's going to be a little bit bigger. But you can notice over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trading days that as this stays up in this area, there's less participation in it. So I don't really like that for what I'm looking at in the market. And if we go back to the daily here, I could actually see, I would not be surprised, and I would not be surprised to see just a blowout to the downside of 300 to 400 points and just shock everyone. I don't know what I don't see an influx of money coming into this market based on confidence of what's going to happen with discussions of spending in the next six to 8 weeks, spending cuts. So let's break this down a little bit more. What I found was because this area is so small, these two areas are so small with trading, and each tick represents on this one 4,181 trades. So even if we went down to a 987, it was hard to read. So you really have to go down to that wasn't too bad, but I think the best one on really slow days, you have to slow down the tick to see what you get. All right, so the 987 was the best one. Okay, so it comes down here on, these are on, this is the last two trading days. This was on Monday and this is Tuesday. You can see plays just using the A-wave, not the A-wave, I'm sorry, T1. It bottoms out here at 853 and then comes back up to the 377 exponential number, moving average, comes back down here, comes back up here, comes back down here. So nice, easy swing trades. Let me see if you can actually see something on the ABC waves. A little bit harder on the ABC waves. There are some clean moves, but not. You want to make sure these are completely below zero before you participate. So like this one moved above zero here and below zero here. Not as clean through here, but this is clean. So, whoops, that's 987. Okay. So right now we're on a swing to the upside. It's up 175 in the aftermarket. So tonight I'm going to highlight Apple Computer, our favorite stock, everyone's favorite stock. This is the daily on the left and the 21-minute on the right. And you can see on the left-hand chart here that this is the fiscal cliff news, and it just like took off. It took off from $510 to $555 and came up against resistance here at the 233 exponential moving average, which I use instead of the 200. But we noticed that the 55 has crossed the 200, and that's very, very important. And already the 8 and the 21 have crossed the 233. And they started across the 377 and bounced up, but now they're starting to roll over again. So given the fact that these are all still below zero, T1, 2, 3, 4, and most of 5 is below zero. It looks like on the, I think it still has more downside, but right now, temporarily, this may have some upside potential, especially because in the down market today, Apple moved up. But if we look and see what happened here on a swing basis, this took off on, let me see here, what's the date? It took off on 12/28, first thing in the morning, and it came, just watch the ride of the wave on the, this is the 21-minute cash price, and it took off from 511 to, and this was actually the day before the fiscal cliff announcement. It was already on the upswing. It took off and it rode all the way up to 555. Now, I'm not saying you'll get all that, but if you played T1 right till January 3rd at 1:30, you can see the time on the bottom down here, then you got most of it. You were out at 545. You can always just get out. Just because it opens, it gaps up. So it did come back up again. So there might be another move left to the upside here, back into the 530 area. I would not be surprised. If we look at the 610, now usually I like the 1597 on this, but since the market has been so slow with volume, it's easier to play the 610. So I'm going to find the daily start on this here. And let me see, 830, 830, 830. All right, so this is where 830 started today. So even if you went in today on an intraday trading, you were day trading it, you actually could have shorted this at or bought some puts at 527, right at 853. Just follow the time as I move the cursor on the bottom and the price on the top and the wave. So this is at 853. I'm sorry, the time is 853. The price is 527, and then it's basically breaking down below the 377 exponential moving average, and then when this comes back up again, that's when you cover. So it's only like a 4-point play, but and then you actually could have gotten back in when this completely cleared above 0 at 12:16 and ridden it into the close, or even up to the 377, which is 523 to 526. You know, it's not very many points on Apple, but if you're playing the 70 deltas on an option play, then you know it's about a 15 or 20% move. It's not bad for day trading if you capture both these moves. Okay, that's all I have for tonight. Again, let's take one more look at the ES. It was just up 200, and it was just up 275, and now you can see that it just spiked up and came back down again. I'm looking for a washout on this. I'm looking for this to just like crack to the downside and at least come down to 1421, which, as you all know if you've been listening to my 60 tapes for the last 4 months, has been my line in the sand. This would fill the gap, and it's a 50% retracement. We can go back here and do a Fibonacci retracement here from the low to the high. So the 1521 not only, the 1421 not only is a line in the sand that goes back for 3 or 4 years, but it's a 50% retracement. So a 618 retracement brings you down to 1414. So don't be surprised. That would be 1414. We're currently at 1452. So that's a 40-point move in the S&P. It's about 10 points per 100 on the Dow. So we're looking at a 300 to 400 point move. It could happen very, very rapidly. That's what I'm looking for right now, and if that happens, we'll have another look to see whether it's going to go through this line or whether it's going to bounce off this line and take off again. And the indicator will be what the 21 is looking like, whether T4 and T5 is below 0 or whether they're moving to the upside. So that's all I have for tonight. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Good luck trading, and I will see you at the next update. I'm going to play some slides that you can look at, some services that I offer, and I'll just leave them up there for you to look at, and you can pause them and take advantage of them if you like.